Darrell Utt joins the show today to share with us the story of the Medal of Honor Museum, which is set to open in 2024 in Arlington, Texas. Darrell has an incredible backstory as a senior operations manager for the 10th Special Forces Group. He's a Green Beret who's continuing his service before self at the construction site of the new museum. I'm Brian Jodice. This is Pick Up the Six podcast. Hey guys, Brian Jodice back for another episode of Pick Up the Six podcast. I've got Darrell Utt with me. What's up, man?
What's up, Brian? It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Man, thrilled to have you.
Texas.
That's right. And you're in the great state of Texas. Those
Yes.
horns over my shoulder there from the great state of Texas during my time in Wichita Falls, man, when I was working at a TV station there, and you and I were just off air, just talking Texas geography and where you're at. Not too far from where we used to be up there by the Red River, but that's a beautiful part where you're at, kind of Arlington area. Hickory Creek.
Yeah,
Right?
Hickory
So,
Creek in Denton
that's right.
County.
Love it, man. That's good. Well, thrilled to have you, man. We're going to talk about the amazing work you're doing at the National Medal of Honor Museum, which is set to open late 24, early 25-ish.
Yep, that's
Man,
right.
just what you guys are getting ready to do there, the mission behind it, why you're doing it. Obviously, massive fans of what you're doing here. We've had the incredible privilege, and I don't throw that around lightly, with the amazing folks we've been able to talk to over the last 138-ish episodes of this podcast. And a handful of those folks have been Medal of Honor recipients, right? Like Melvin Moore, like Melvin Morris, Barney Barnum, old school guys, man. They don't make them like those dudes
Congratulations.
anymore,
138 episodes.
It's been a lot of fun. Been a lot of fun and a real honor. And I'm thrilled to have you on today, man. So first and foremost, just thanks for popping on with us.
Yeah, man, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be here.
Yeah, you've got a great background that involves some pretty epic stuff in the Army and big deal kind of things. We'll say things like Green Beret, but I want to talk to you first off the top because I'm an App State guy. I know you've got connections to the beautiful town that is Boone, NC. You've got some loved ones up that way, but I also know your first exposure to Boone, I might be putting words in my mouth, changed your life. And that's what it does to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, it's actually, it did. It changed my family's life. You know, my son, my daughter, both graduated from Appalachian State. My first experience, I think this is really neat, man. It's kind of a cool story, but my first experience and exposure to Boone, North Carolina, Appalachian State. I checked the year with my son this morning. It was 2013. It was the fall. And this wasn't like planned, scheduled, or anything like that. It was just like, it's the fall of 2013. Didn't really know much about what we were getting into because I lived in Whispering Pines, North Carolina at this time. So it's a good couple hour drive from Whispering Pines, right there in the Pinehurst area.
Yeah.
So fall of 2013, we decide to do a little college scouting. And my son,
he's in high school at the time.
Yeah, he's in high school. He's getting ready to go to college, and he needs to find a college, find a school. So we get in the car and we do a road trip, just me and him. We drive up to Boone, and it's a beautiful fall day, 2013. And we start getting close to the town of Boone, and the place is just rocking.
Right.
It's rocking.
Yeah.
And still hadn't really dawned on us what's going on until, a couple minutes into the traffic and the people and all this other type of stuff that was going on. But we realized it was big game day for Appalachian State. They had a home game. So we got to experience not only the beautiful fall, North Carolina in the mountains, but we got to see the energy of the Rock, and
Brewer Stadium. That's right.
Man, it was just booming, and I think that we were both hooked. Father and son.
It's a special place. I'm so glad that America got to see it this year, right? So after that incredible win over Texas A&M, then college game day for college football announces we're going to Boone. They're playing Troy. Who are we playing? We're playing Troy,
Carolina.
No, I'm blanking. Anyways, we won an amazing. Well, it was Troy, yeah. So, anyways, they go up the mountain, but they get to show everybody on college game day. Right? They get to show everybody what that place is like. When I was there, 1999 to 2003, we were winning football games, but not at the level in which they do now. And so, 2013, man, you went up there I was there 99 to 2003.
Were you? That was
It was before
That
they
was
started
like
winning.
when
It was before they started winning national championships.
that was before they beat Michigan too,
Yeah,
right?
won national championships 05, 06, 07, I think, if I've got my math correct,
Yeah,
and beat Michigan the year after their first one AA national championship.
that's
So
big.
no, I wasn't there for that. I was a few years removed. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
special place, man. I get it. I love it.
Yeah, man, it's a special place. My son went there, and then of course that exposed my daughter, who's a few years younger than my son. So she ended up doing a couple years at Sandhills Community
Nice.
College right there in Pinehurst, and then she went and did her junior and senior year up at Appalachian State.
Bleeding black
So
and gold on this podcast episode.
yeah, man, yeah,
Love it.
black and gold. I still got an App State sticker on my vehicle,
Hell
man.
yeah. Me
Drove
too.
around down in Texas. Yeah.
I'm looking back over my shoulder over there. There it is. I got a little App State football helmet right there. Boom.
Oh, okay.
Right above the pickup the 6 9. It's kind of hard to see. It's one of those little black
Yeah.
helmets. I need to move it up to make it a little
That
more
one didn't
prominent.
catch my eye, but the Giants helmet has definitely caught my eye, man. What's the
Well, if you're in Arlington, we might be we might be opposed.
Yeah, man.
I
What's the
mean,
connection there with
yeah,
the
my parents are from northern New Jersey. My dad was born in northern New Jersey. We were just always been huge Giants fans, Giants Yankees fans. My folks are Jersey strong and Jersey proud, and so we've always been big Giants fans. So
Yeah,
you're
man.
probably a Cowboys guy. I get it. We're pulling for the Eagles in the Super Bowl. My wife's from Philly, so we're all in for the Birds in the Super Bowl,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's what
Wow.
we're gonna do. Yeah,
Yeah, man. I that helmet reminds me of Lawrence Taylor, man. It looks
it's
like
Lawrence
something
Taylor.
that,
It's Lomas Brown. It's just old school, right? Like it's that old school. I got that when I was a little kid. My brothers and I got those play football, uniforms. And it was like a Phil Simms little paper thin jersey, little pair of gray pants, that helmet. So there's another one hanging in the garage of my house. And then there's this one here that we leave here. So yeah, it's kind of
yeah,
old school
man.
look. Yeah,
Old school
that's
smash
right.
mouth
That's
football,
right.
man.
That's right.
Smash mouth Giants
That's
defense
right.
football.
Yeah, man. It was when the NFC East was really something, beating the
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills in 4 straight Super Bowls kind of thing. I
Yeah,
love it,
man.
man. Dude, we could just do
Yeah.
this all day. We don't even, I mean, we got a lot of important stuff to talk about, but
Yeah, man, for
cool
sure.
too.
For sure.
Well, look, man, just doing amazing work, right? You're the chief of business operations for the National Medal of Honor Museum. I want to talk about that, but man, tell me a little bit about Darrell Utt, the soldier, because you've got a pretty impressive resume. I went back and looked through some stuff. I was like, shit, Darrell's done some stuff in his day. That includes a Green Beret. So tell me about your journey, man, and path to the military, and specifically the special forces side of it.
Yeah, man, back in the day. So born and raised in Huntington, West Virginia, small little town in the Southwest.
Thundering Herd.
Yeah, man. Yeah, right there where the Thundering Herd, Marshall University. But yeah, born and raised Huntington, West Virginia, and grew up all boy, playing sports, football, basketball, baseball. Was terrible at basketball, decent at baseball and football. My dad also had me, hunting and fishing and
Mm-hmm.
trapping. So got to experience that. I think that kind of helped shape my future,
Yeah. Yeah.
sure. And then luckily for me, my high school football time, I was exposed. My head football coach was a 19th group special forces guy, Coach Carl Thornburg. So the way he ran that team and the way he treated us, and he was a great mentor to me. And
Yeah.
he kind of took us under, me and a few other guys. He took us under his wing and exposed us to a little bit of what the military was going to be like. Because I think he realized that he had some kids on the football team that probably weren't going to see a college right away. I grew up humble beginnings, grew up poor. So I'm glad he took us under his wing and exposed us to a little bit of the military life
Yeah.
and encouraged us. So there was a lot of guys, man, I played football with. They either joined the Army, the Marine Corps, Air Force. I think we might have had like a Navy or two guys. So that was kind of my start, man. Graduated high school in 1990, joined the Army the next month. Started out in the combat arms as an infantryman.
Mm-hmm.
And did that for about 6 years and got to do some travel. So that was really cool. And then I started checking out the whole special forces thing, because being a young guy, you kind of needed, for at least for me, I felt like I needed kind of a little confidence boost. Like, hey, is
Mm.
this something, because not everybody's cut out for that. Let's just be honest. So once I had about 5 or 6 years in, I was like, hey, I think I can do this. Uh, Mentally strong and in good physical condition. And 1996, I went and did Special Forces assessment and selection, and was fortunate enough to get picked up, and went through the Special Forces qualification course and
Hmm.
graduated, and things kind of took off from there. My first duty station as a Special Forces Green Beret, I was assigned to First Battalion 10th Special Forces Group, so I'm a 10th Group guy. Um, First 4 years I was in Stuttgart, Germany, and we dealt a lot with the air war, all the stuff that
Hmm.
was going on in the Balkans.
Yeah.
Was knee deep into all that stuff, into Bosnia and
Yep.
Kosovo.
Yep. My old man
Uh,
was up at the J3 at the Pentagon, late '90s during a lot of that Kosovo Bosnia stuff.
yeah,
Similar
yeah,
time frame, right?
I saw where
Yeah,
your
probably,
dad.
I guess, mid to late '90s.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Late for me, it was late '90s, but
Yeah.
yeah, that stuff was all going on mid to late '90s. But yeah, I saw where your dad. I think he retired as a 3-star
He had
lieutenant.
a pretty good career. He sure
That's a
did.
pretty good career, man.
He did,
Congratulations.
he did all right, man. 2013, he hung it up, and after 36 years in the United States Air Force, and that flag in that case up there, he flew over the desert. So yeah, man, big reason why we started this podcast, in February 21.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations on all the success that you've had with this podcast.
Yeah,
But
thank you, brother.
yeah, once I once I left Germany, that was in the fall of '02.
Mm-hmm.
I went back to 10th Group Maine, our main headquarters, Fort Carson, Colorado. And right when I got there, man, fall of 2002, we were prepping for the invasion
Yeah, it's go time. Yep.
of northern Iraq. So got there and just jumped right into planning for that. So we went ahead and did the initial infill into Iraq, which I think you can see over my shoulder. Yeah, right over
Yeah.
there. I got a picture of an MC-130. That was during Operation Ugly Baby. That was the initial infiltration into northern Iraq. We flew in from Jordan and absolutely got lit up
Mm.
the whole time. They didn't really have a chance. Our side, we didn't have a chance to soften up all the AAA, the anti-aircraft
Yeah.
artillery. So man, we got lit up on
So
that.
ideally, right, going into something like that, we'd have our own aircraft, right, flying into those spaces and basically just trying to blow up everything that could hit you guys and coming in later, right?
Yeah,
And
for
just the
sure.
way in which it was kind of flying quick, right? So I just
Yeah,
talked to Johnny Fast last week, and he was Air Force combat controller, right? They were going into Afghanistan, I think, while you guys were going into potentially into Iraq, if I've got the timing kind of right.
yeah. This
What
was
that looked
we
like.
went in early 2003.
Yeah.
It wasn't designed. It wasn't set up that way. We were supposed to infiltrate in to northern Iraq and link up with our Kurdish Peshmerga. We were supposed to come in from Turkey, and that's where all of our gear and our vehicles, we had everything staged up
Yeah.
there.
NATO allies, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
last minute they got cold feet and said, "Hey, yeah, you guys aren't going to do that. We're not going to authorize you guys to use our space or our airspace for that matter." So,
Which adds a whole
so
nother
that
degree of
was
difficulty to all that.
that was
Yeah.
a huge monkey wrench there. So that's why we had to flex and we had to do that long infiltration with the MC-130 flying on the desert floor, man, flying nap of the earth. So that was pretty intense. Um, and then that kind of started things. That started the whole Iraq rotations for us. I was there 2003. I was there 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. With those last couple of rotations, super, super intense, super
Yeah.
violent.
Yeah.
Those rotations were in Baghdad, and there was just so much going on. Baghdad, center of gravity, civil war, that we were dealing with. The Sunnis were killing the Shias were killing the Sunni, and it seemed
Yep.
like the only thing that they could agree on was both sides hated Americans. So we just found
Right,
ourselves.
great. Here we are.
Yeah, we found
Yeah.
ourselves in the middle of that. And that's when I was, I was more senior. I was actually leading an operational detachment alpha, an ODA. I was a
Yep.
team sergeant. So I was a senior. I was a senior enlisted member of a team. And, we had two great rotations though. I had a young team that was hungry and they were down to fight. So, um, and we had plenty of that. I mean, we were in a compound in '06 on the east side of the Tigris River, in a little suburb of Baghdad called Adamiyah. And actually, with the Civil War, that whole thing that was going on, the Shias had came in and basically pushed out a lot of the Sunnis, except for in Adamiyah.
Mm.
They had one of the largest Sunni mosques in Adamiyah, so there was no way they were going to leave that mosque and leave their area. So they kind of had a stronghold there. And because of that, there was just a lot of stuff going on, and we just
Well,
happened
dude,
to be.
it just illustrates, right? Like the depth in which they were all involved in this. I mean, you're talking about hundreds, thousands of years of
Yeah.
history. Man, it was a wild time, I'm sure, for you guys just to be around all that.
Yeah, for
Not to
sure.
mention just combat stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and being there and trying to learn all of the culture and like what you're saying, you're dealing with folks that have been fighting back and forth for thousands of
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and then the whole Iran dynamic and how all of those things started unfolding. Man, it was an interesting time. I felt like I kind of got a PhD from my time there in Iraq, especially those last two rotations in Baghdad. But that was the pinnacle. That was the highlight
Mm-hmm.
of my career. Was
Yeah.
leading a ODA in combat for a couple of rotations. After that, I ended up going back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I did my instructor time and did some staff time, and then I ended up retiring after 26 and a half
That's
years.
awesome, man. Congratulations to you and thank you. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, man, it was a privilege for me to serve my country. I started out as a kind of a young, dumb kid that didn't really understand much, but as I grew into my military time and my military service, I definitely learned what it meant to serve. I think you have a saying. I don't know if this is your saying, Brian, or if this is your dad's saying, but I saw it on your site there. Service before self.
Yeah.
Um,
So I've got this keychain. My keys are today's a good day, right? Within reach. The date is July 2nd, 2004. It's the day my dad pinned on as his first star as a general. And so it's always been something he didn't create it, but it's always been something that just has meant a lot. And it's something that we kind of etched on our family's kind of value system. Right. And it's a big reason why we started this. We want to highlight stories about people who have gone above and beyond, specifically through service before self. We talk about strength of purpose and community impact, but that service before self is doing something outside of yourself. You got to see people, guys and gals, do that every day.
yeah, man, for sure. I really like that, man. Service before self. And I feel like as a country, just
Mm,
my opinion, obviously, but I feel like that as a country, we really need to get back to that.
yep.
I think we've kind of ventured away from that service before self, and I think it's hurting. I mean, dude, you probably know this as well as I do. I mean, our recruiting efforts, our retention
Mm,
efforts across all branches of service.
yep.
I think I just saw something this morning that it might have been, I don't know which branch, or maybe it was all of them, but it was one of the worst recruiting years since Vietnam. And just the military, man, they're having a hard time recruiting folks.
Yep.
They're having a hard time retaining good folks. And yeah, man, it's an issue. We're gonna have to solve that for sure.
Yeah, it's an issue. We're going to have to solve that because geopolitical foes are ramping up efforts, adding people to rank. So it's something to think about. And I mean, look, I would make the argument too that more folks that go to Washington, D.C. to put a suit and a tie on to serve in the nation's capital, had they served in some capacity, might set them up to make decisions a little differently too.
Yeah,
It means a little bit more to send America's treasure over there if you yourself have been willing to put your life on the line to do it.
yeah, for
So
sure,
yeah,
man.
I hear you. We're in sync on that, my friend, for sure. And look, man, we're a small part of it. Like part of what I'm trying to do here, what we're doing with you guys, the listeners, you listeners who are a big part of this, is to lean in and share stories about this so we can remember all folks have done. Right. And that's
Yeah,
a huge part of what you guys are doing through this National Medal of Honor Museum, right? You're creating a living legacy, a place to go to not just honor, but to learn, to get engaged with those who have been awarded our nation's highest honor, right? That Medal of Honor is the most prestigious thing I think a soldier, airman, Marine, Coast Guard can have draped around their neck, right? Is that Medal of Honor for
yeah,
incredible heroism.
yeah, for sure, man.
So tell me how
And
you got there, man, and what this thing's going to be all about. I'm excited for you guys, man. I can't wait for it to get here. Excited to
yeah.
get to Texas and come see it. But man, tell us what's going on.
Well, man, if you're ever down in Texas before, you don't have to come down here just right when it opens.
Yeah,
If you want to come down before and do an exclusive tour of the construction site and the preview center, would love to host you. Just let me know. We
hard
set this
commit.
up
Let's make
all
that.
the
We'll make that
time.
happen. Yep.
Yeah, man, would love to host you and have you down here. So my career, man, once I retired out of Fort Bragg. Surprisingly enough, I followed a guy that used to work for me. I followed him. He had gotten a job at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I
And
saw that. Was fascinated by that.
yeah, yeah,
That's
man.
cool.
Yeah. It was under construction, and they got him for like the global effort.
Okay.
Because we had a lot of folks that were going overseas and going to Israel and Africa and all kinds of other places. So he was more on the global side, and I just happened to make a comment to him. I was up in DC doing some surveillance training, and I was still in. I was getting ready to hit my heavy, retirement process, but
Yep.
I kind of made a side comment. I said, "Hey, man, if you need any help, let me know. Yeah, just give me a call." And it kind
And
of
then,
like
yeah,
in
yeah.
passing,
Sure,
like
sure.
nothing will ever happen,
Right.
nothing will come of this. But man, I'll be darned. A couple of weeks later, I believe he called me. This is one of my good pals that uh, lives in Texas, Ryan Land. He actually lives in Kerrville,
Mm-hmm.
Texas. But Ryan gave me a call. He's like, "Hey, man, were you serious about that? Like, would you really entertain working at a museum? Because it's kind of a weird
A museum about the
transition."
Bible.
Yeah. It's a
It's a little
weird
different.
transition to go from
Right.
a special forces Green Beret
Right.
to, working at the Museum of the Bible.
Right.
But I told him, I said, "Hey, man, yeah, of
There's some
course."
pretty good war stories in that book.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. He needed a director of security. He needed
Yeah.
someone full time in DC. So I actually started working there before I actually fully retired. I started working there in the summer of 16. Ended up, I was director of security for a couple of years during construction phase, during the grand opening and day-to-day ops. Did director of security, did director of operations, did that for about 3 years. And then I transitioned over to a security firm, a world-renowned firm, Thornton Tomasetti,
Mm.
do a lot of security work. Did that for a couple of years. And I was in that role when I came across Chris Cassidy, who is the CEO and the president of the National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation, who just happens to be a former Navy SEAL and an astronaut, and he's
Mm-hmm.
an MIT grad. So a
Pretty,
lot of us
pretty
joke that,
good pedigree.
yeah, he's the classic underachiever,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Should probably do more with his life.
Yeah. Classic underachiever. Man, he's absolutely a great guy. Great guy. But I met Chris in my role as kind of a security operations consultant. Had a conversation with him, and I had a black notebook, and I opened it up and I started sharing some notes, from my days at the Museum of the Bible during
Yeah.
construction days and
Yeah.
all of that, all the lessons learned, because it's a really complex, it's a complex endeavor to build and open a museum. and to do it correctly and to get
Sure.
a lot of people interested in the museum. So I started sharing some lessons learned with Chris, and that kind of started our relationship. And before I knew it, he said, "Hey, would you be interested in joining the team and coming and work here?" And I was like, "Absolutely, man." And I felt like, and I still feel like this, Brian. It's a way for me to continue to serve. It's probably the
Yeah,
same way that you feel with having such a successful podcast and you're reaching so many people. It's a way for you to serve,
that's right.
and for me being in the role that I'm in, I feel like I'm service before self.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
serving. I have a greater cause and something that drives me every day. And I would tell you, man, there's nothing more important than this. There have been a few times I've been at the construction site, and we'll have Medal of Honor recipients that will be at the site, and they're looking, maybe for the first or second time. They're looking at the site and they're seeing it build up from the ground,
Yeah.
from the slab to the mega columns to the steel. And I'm seeing this, and I'm just seeing the look in their eyes. And there's a few times that I've heard at least one individual say, "I just want to be alive when this
Mm,
place is built."
yeah.
And it's like, man, that hits me right in the heart. And it's like, man, that's the reason that you wake up in the morning and you're motivated and you're driven. You want to do a great job. As you mentioned, I mean, the Medal of Honor recipients, it's the highest award for valor. They just don't give those things out to anybody.
Yep.
I mean, that's a very prestigious. I mean, we only have 64 living Medal of Honor recipients out
Yeah.
of 3,500
God, and
total.
we've lost some legends recently. Woody
Oh
Williams.
yeah, man, and Woody.
Oh my gosh, just legends, man.
Yeah, yeah, and
Legends.
Woody was a fellow West Virginian, man, and
Yeah.
I
We
had.
missed this is not about me, but we missed having him on this show by probably about 6 months of health. We had it
Oh,
scheduled and he hit poor health and we were just never able to do it. And I was like, damn, so close to
yeah,
being able to
man.
talk to him. But you think about and there is something incredibly powerful, right? The weight of obviously being awarded that medal, but being around those guys, last March, I got to spend the day with 4 or 5 living recipients and just being around those gentlemen in person. It just, they're rarefied air of those who have, done really incredible things on behalf of our nation. What they all would tell you is, I was doing
Just
what I was
doing my
supposed to do,
job.
just doing my job. Right. But the stuff they do, I mean, guys, go back and listen to an episode with Melvin Morris when he talks about his commanding officer is killed on the battlefield. And not only is he like, I got to get his body out of here because that's my brother, but he dropped like 3 maps and I got to go get the maps because if the VC gets the maps, we're totally screwed. And he went all the way back in to get the guy and get the maps to protect other guys from getting killed in combat. So it's just, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And to be able to build a physical structure like that for them, for their families, for their legacy, knowing that as time goes on, we'll lose them. That's pretty neat. It's pretty
Yeah,
incredible. It's got to be a hell of an undertaking to build something like that.
for sure, man. And Brian, I want to hit up on something that you just said, that you had a chance last year to spend some time with a couple of
Yeah.
recipients. I have to pinch myself, and I say this to the staff constantly when we're around recipients. Man, I spent 26 and a half years in the military, 26 and a half years active duty, U.S. Army. I was only ever around one Medal of Honor recipient that whole entire time.
Mm,
And that was Bob Howard, who was just an absolute beast, legend, special forces, just, I mean, absolute legend. Um, and even being around him just for like an hour or two, it was like, hey, don't bother him, don't talk to him, don't ask for
right.
pictures.
Right.
He was just there to kind of give a speech and have some inspiring words for some special forces guys. But and now working at the foundation, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we had a lunch. They catered some lunch, and Brett Slavinsky,
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Navy SEAL, Medal of Honor recipient from Afghanistan. He sat there and had lunch with us, and the staff had an opportunity to ask questions, and he was in a great mood, and he's sharing stories, and it's just like, man, this is crazy. We just did salute to service. Dallas Cowboys, big
Mm-hmm.
partners, big
Yeah.
supporters of ours. Charlotte Jones from the Dallas Cowboys, she's the chairwoman of our board. Very powerful, very engaging, super, super patriot. I mean, Charlotte and the Jones family,
Yeah.
so impressive. With their success,
Sure.
like, wow.
How far will you guys be, your location, to where their stadium is?
Where AT&T Stadium, dude,
Yeah.
it's, you can see it. It's just like,
Beautiful.
boom.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's seconds away,
That's
minute,
awesome.
minute walking, maybe a couple minutes, but it's right there, man. I mean, having this place strategically in
Mm-hmm.
Arlington, I mean, it's right beside Globe Life Field where the Texas Rangers play. It's right beside AT&T Stadium where the Cowboys play. Man, they're building up the area. It's gonna be amazing. They're getting ready to put an 888 room hotel in with a huge
Nice. That's
convention
awesome, man.
center. I mean, we're strategically located with Dallas Fort Worth. We have Dallas Love Field. In this area, in the Dallas Fort Worth area, I think we have like 8 million people. Pre-COVID, we had about 50 million people visiting that area. Texas is one of two states in the country that are over 30 million population. I think we just hit over 30. California has been past 30 million for a while, but
Yeah, but they're all coming to Texas now.
yeah, man, that's what I hear. We got a lot of
Hey, you
California.
can welcome if you don't bring all your bullshit with you. Just one
Yeah,
guy's opinion, but I mean, do
yeah,
what you got to
yeah.
do.
Yeah, but we're really excited, man.
Yeah,
We have a great staff. I got some great colleagues on the
that's
executive
awesome, man.
team, and some wicked smart people that I get a chance to work with, and they're all very passionate about our mission, to
Yeah,
inspire America. And some of these stories, man, some of these stories from the recipients are so powerful, and that's what we're focused in on, those stories,
yep,
personal is universal.
yep.
And I just learned that from one of my good friends, Scott Mann, who's a retired lieutenant colonel, special forces. He's doing a play called Last Out. We might have a chance to talk about that later on,
Sweet.
but yeah, man, we got some great stories that we're wanting to share, because we're trying to highlight the fact these were ordinary people that did extraordinary,
Extraordinary things. That's exactly right.
way above and
Exactly
beyond
right.
Call of Duty,
Yep.
but these are ordinary people that did extraordinary things. And what lessons can we glean from these recipients? We talk a lot about the values. There's 6 values that go along, courage, sacrifice, commitment, integrity, citizenship, patriotism. You don't have to have a rifle in your hand or be in Syria or, be
Yep.
fighting Al Qaeda to have courage or
That's right.
sacrifice.
That's
Maybe
right.
you can glean something from these stories from these recipients, and maybe you can display courage in your life. Maybe you're taking care of a sick family member, or someone has cancer. That's courage, that's sacrifice, that's commitment. There's a lot of things we want people to go through our exhibit space and really learn that lesson. Like, man, these were ordinary people that did extraordinary things. And some of these recipients, I mean, it's fascinating to me as I've learned more and more. Some of these guys were bullied in school. Some of the, like, Roy Benavidez, Special Forces Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez from Texas,
Yep.
Vietnam Medal of Honor recipient. I mean, his upbringing and his life, he was an orphan. He didn't do that well in school. He was part Indian, part Mexican, and he was discriminated against
Sure.
growing up. But he still,
Melvin would share similar stories with you about growing up in the backwoods of Oklahoma, learning how
yeah,
to hunt and
man.
trap like you talked about before. So when the army needed him then to go do the things he had to do, He's like, I've been doing this my whole life. And most
Exactly.
people would look down on it.
Man, I haven't. It's interesting that so I didn't know that Melvin
Yeah,
Morris
dude.
grew up. I know this,
Small town Oklahoma, like
dude. I know he's
hunting,
a huge
fishing, treasure.
fisherman, but
Yes.
I didn't know he grew up
Go
hunting
back
and
and go
fishing in
back and
Appalachia.
listen to our chat. I've
Which
talked to
episode
him.
is that? Do you know?
Man, just I'll have to go look at it because I've talked to
Okay.
him twice, right? Once, like we're doing right now, where we recorded it virtually, and then the other time on the deck of the USS Yorktown a year ago, we got to meet in person, which what a blast. I mean, what a blast to meet him in person. But
Man,
yeah, I mean, just like backwoods kind of guy, right? Like, and most
yeah.
people would be like,
And
think
he's
that's
super
silly.
humble, man.
Oh
He's
my
a
God, he's
super
the
humble
best.
guy.
Great.
I've been around him a couple of times.
He was eating snakes before people would call you guys snake eater. I
Snake
mean,
eaters, yeah.
that's right.
He was eating snakes before eating snakes was cool.
That's right.
I've been able to spend a little bit of time with Melvin, kind of in the vicinity of
Well,
him.
he's such a good servant to the metal too. He really
Yeah,
pours a lot into it.
I've never
A lot
had
of guys do. I just know him the best, of the folks that I've met just because I've spent a little bit of time around him.
yeah. I know he's a huge fisherman. I actually had the absolute privilege. I was at the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, their last function that they did in
Nice.
Nashville last
Shout
year.
out to Falconberry and all the folks at Congressional Medal of Honor
Oh yeah,
Society.
man.
Big friends
Yeah.
of theirs, big fans of what they're doing. Love,
Oh
obviously, what
yeah.
they're doing.
Oh yeah, man. They do great stuff. But I sat down to eat breakfast. I think I was getting ready to fly out, and I sat down to eat breakfast. And right behind me, it just happened to be Melvin Morris and his wife. And I was
Yeah.
able to kind of secretly set it up where I paid for their breakfast.
Oh, good move. I love
And
that. Yep.
yeah, man. And I wrote like a little note on the receipt, that they brought out. And I said, hey, it was an absolute privilege and an honor for me to purchase your all, to pay for your
Mm,
all's breakfast. And I put my name and I put my number on there. And I'll be darned, man. Mrs. Morris sent me a text and said, hey, that was
beautiful.
very kind. You didn't have to do that, but we
Yeah.
really appreciate. I mean, just so
So
nice,
good.
man. Great
So
people.
good. He's
I
episode 27, which is
27.
wild.
I can't wait to listen to it. So we have a
Yeah. You're going to love
podcast,
it.
not trying to steal
No,
any
tell us all about it.
audience.
This is what we do here, man. Tell us
We
all
have
about it.
a podcast. It's Mission to Inspire,
Beautiful.
and the podcast host, her name's Mo Barrett. But dude, I find it fascinating when Mo has the Medal of Honor recipients on her show.
Yeah.
She's had David Bellavia, she's had Jake Jacobs, Pat Brady, Kyle Carpenter.
Mhm.
I mean, and just for me, as someone that works at the foundation, when I can hear them speaking on the podcast, and Mo asks those questions like, "Well, what do you think? What do what are you most excited about with this museum
Yeah.
opening in
Yeah.
Arlington, Texas?" And I have some of their comments because I just think it's so important. I wrote down a few of their comments. Let me see if I can find a few here. I know education is one that they talk about. Like that's a big one for them. Like
Yep.
they think that's so important, the educational value. And let's see, amazing cause to bring people together, learn the values, the 6 values that we talked about. Stories and names will not be forgotten. DNA of our country. It goes beyond the medal.
Mm.
Great education center. Put our differences aside. Allow yourself to be inspired. Pat Brady. Can't love this country if you don't know this country. Another Pat Brady. The medal doesn't make us special, but it allows us to do special things.
Mm.
And finally, see the attitudes and values that drive people to take care of other people. That's coming directly from the recipients. I was so inspired to ask one of my colleagues, Corey Crowley, who sets all of that up. I asked him, I said, hey, man, is it possible to get like the transcripts? Because I'm doing it old school, West Virginia style, man. I'm listening to the podcast, stopping it, trying to write.
Jotting it all down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's taken me, an hour to do something that would probably be like 2 minutes. But I was like, hey man, is it possible to do like the transcripts of these podcasts? Because they are absolutely laying out some just gold mine information that really helps us direction wise, while we're in construction and
Yeah,
while we're going through
sure.
this whole process
Sure.
to make
It
sure
keeps
that
you
we're
connected
meeting
to the
their intent.
why. Yeah, it keeps you
Yeah.
connected to the why, because the monotony in the day to day of building a structure like that can get, yeah, you're kind of down in the weeds of it. So to remember why
Yeah.
you're doing it, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, for sure.
This is a great way to look at it. Well, listen, man, this is a huge effort, right? Still, guys, got some runway in front of you. You probably need some help, right? We've got an engaged listener base here. What can these folks do to get engaged, to help, to support? When can they go and see it? Just give me an info dump.
Yeah, man. Well, they can go to our website, mohmuseum.org. They can follow us. What'll really help too, they can follow us on social media.
Yep.
We're active. Like, I'm only on LinkedIn, so that's all I see, as we talked about, I think
Yep.
before we went live. But I'm only on LinkedIn, so I only see the LinkedIn stuff. But I know that the foundations on all the other social medias. Um, I do a lot of posts on the National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation, do updates. Actually, I'm getting ready to do one tomorrow that I'm excited about. Once a month, I'll do like an update, like a monthly update that I just do on LinkedIn. So I'm looking forward to that. You'll see that tomorrow. But yeah, man, we're still fundraising. We're still deep into fundraising. We have
Yep.
millions of dollars still to raise. So we're always looking for friends
Yep.
that are willing to help, donate. We have a membership program that'll be launching here in the next couple months. We'd be, super happy, super excited if we had some folks that wanted to partake in that. I mean, that would be really exciting. But yeah, man, just looking for friends. We're looking for money. We're looking for support. We're looking
Yep.
for followers. We're looking for friends. If you have someone in Texas, if any of the listeners in Texas, if they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, there's not a lot of Darrell Utts running around out there, but they can link up with me on LinkedIn, and I'll try to help them out. And we do some tours, and
That's awesome.
from time to time, man, we do a lot of events. A lot of folks, with Chris being our CEO and president, being a former astronaut, a lot of folks are fascinated with his background. So we do a lot of speaking events. Chris is there. We have a lot of Medal of Honor recipients that come out and do engagements, and it's just an opportunity for us to get linked up with folks. So yeah, man,
Yeah.
reach out, and I'd be happy to try to facilitate and set some of those things up.
Hit up the website. It's mohmuseum.org. And at the top right, you see a nice yellow donate now button. So that's step one, right? Go there, do that. But what's
Please.
great is you can see just it's loaded with interactive virtual videos that show you, well, you can see just how close you are to the baseball stadium, that show
Yeah.
you what it's going to look like in there, what this thing's going to be like. Obviously, just the incredible impact they're going to have by being there, right? The men and women that they're going to honor by building this thing. But go to that website, man. Check it out. That's where you can find Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. You can do exactly what Darrell's encouraging you to do, and give him a follow, give him some support. And then once this thing is done, you need to go out there and see it. We all need to make a trip to Texas, and our Texas listeners can go check it out. It's going to be amazing, man. I wish you well over the next year-ish, right? As this thing
Yeah.
to go. And man, just excited for what the potential will be to have a place, such a special place like this in an area that we know will appreciate it. We'll really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. We're fired up. We're excited.
Awesome. It's the National Medal of Honor Museum. He's Darrell Utt. He's done some incredible stuff on behalf of our nation. So first and foremost, Darrell, we always thank you for that. And then found a way to keep by no surprise, found a way to keep serving here by being a part of this thing. It's been fun, man.
Privilege.
All right, go check them out. It's mohmuseum.org, the National Medal of Honor Museum. Hoping to open late 24, maybe early 25, and just continue that legacy of America's most prestigious award for our military members, the Medal of Honor. He's Darrell Utt. I'm Brian Jodice. That's been this episode of Pick Up the Six podcast.